The following program presents principles designed to promote good health. It should not take the place of personal professional care. Viewers should always consult their qualified health practitioner before considering alternative treatment.
I'm always looking forward to the last presentation because there I speak then of my favorite topic, which is the definition of love, which will solve all our problems that we have. Because if we would know how to exercise love, all our problems that we face would disappear. And we will see how that works. So we will remember shortly that stress is a conflict with time, anxiety is a conflict with circumstances, and depression is the result of conflicts with humans. All of these attempts are impossible attempts because they are irrational, and we ask ourselves, why is reason not stronger than rationality? And why do we have no solution for stress, anxiety, depression, and chronic disease? Why do we still go the same way and do not know why? And I said the first night, it is the lack of self-knowledge. We came to understand that we humans have two problems. We have no knowledge about ourselves, our structure, our functions, of the basic laws of nature. And I hope that in this seminar I gave an overview so that to cope a little bit with the unknowledge. Because we must be first coming to knowledge that we might be able to come out of our incapacity. Because we also have an incapacity from our birth to control ourselves. Or have you seen children controlling themselves? No. You have even adults that they cannot control themselves. So we have a problem from our birth, an incapacity to control ourselves. We have a problem to control our thoughts and to control, evidently, our actions. Because every action that we do must come out of a thought, must come out of something that we have spiritual. So we have put our study on these four foundations that we want to know the law. I hope we saw it last night and we'll repeat a little bit today. We are built in a certain way that can never be changed. That's our structure. We have needs that no one can put away, that put us into function. And all these four give us an objective foundation that we should never doubt about ourselves. So we came to understand that we have a body and a spirit. And we have a result of these two, that is the soul. And I still hope you know that the soul is not an entity for itself, it is just the result of two entities of themselves. Like water is the result of oxygen and hydrogen, so the soul, we as humans, and also the animals are the soul, is the result of two elements, one spiritual and one physical. And I gave that example, I hope you didn't forget it, with the piano and the player. So the piano is the body, the spirit is the player. What's the soul? The music. You don't have a music that comes from the piano except someone plays the piano. So it's very clear, and I hope you understand, the soul is the music. So when the player and the piano are not together, how much music you still have? None. The only thing that passes away in humans is the soul, because the soul is just the result of two items. Now we have learned the responsibilities of the human spirit. The human spirit does, through his thoughts, he makes the electricity to the brain, and so he governs the human body, and he decides what chemistry comes into his body by what he inhales and eats and drinks. So the Spirit governs all processes in the body. He governs the nervous system, the hormonal system, the immune system, the digestive system, the blood sugar. Everything, every chemical balance is made not by chemistry, but by what you think. So when you have any imbalance in your body, don't think first you didn't eat enough. Because it's mostly never the problem that you didn't eat enough of certain things, because your spirit did unbalance the function of your body because he was in a lost situation. He was in a, like Solomon says it, a broken spirit, a spirit that is not happy, that brings all the disbalances in our body. So if we want to fix the body, we must first fix the spirit's way to think. Now the body responds to the input of the spirit, the thoughts, with electricity, and the body must take in that what the spirit gives him as chemistry. We have seen that the body can never feed himself. Nothing physical can do that. So the spirit is the ultimate power that does everything in the human being. It controls the functions, and it controls and decides what comes in and out. So we must understand this controlling power. Where does it begin? Where is it? And we have seen that the spirit has a conscious part and a subconscious part. And we saw that through decisions, how many decisions do we have? 2 decisions. That is, we have a yes and a no. With the yes, we make the electricity. With the no, not. Everything that comes into your brain are never thoughts. The brain can never handle thoughts. He handles only impulses. How much thoughts are on a DVD? None. There's only 0 and 1. There is only impulses that are read and then are translated, and we can see it and judge it. So in our body, there is nothing spiritual. Never think the brain can think. Like never your feet can walk. My voice cannot speak. It is only through the impulse of the human spirit that you can walk and you can do something. Those elements are just used. The brain is used for the spirit to think. To the brain, everything comes in, and it must be presented to the spirit, and the spirit must respond with his decisions. So, decisions are most important. The right decisions put into the body makes the body to be healthy or unhealthy. And we saw that it is always the loss of the no that makes us sick. I hope you still remember that when we talk about the subconscious. It's when we have to do that we see. So we know we need to put all things in gain or loss. We have a yes for the gain and we have a no for the loss. And when we have a loss that we can say not no to it, then we put such a strange electrical current in our body that leads to all the dysfunction possible that we can have. So we have, before we put anything into gain or loss, we have a motivation. The motivation asked which question? For whom do I do what I do? We learned that the human being can do how much for himself? Nothing. He either does it for the good or he does it for the evil. He either is in the service of God or in the service of man and in the service of an error. He never can do anything for himself since he has nothing. He is something, but he has nothing. And that is most important for us to understand. We have been built by God in a perfect way. We are the most performant being that He put on earth. But we are empty vessels that have no means except to take them where God provides them and give them. So we are something, but we have nothing. Some people get confused because they think to have is the same thing than to be. You see, you put yourself, the more you have, you think the more you are. And some people say, oh, if I have nothing, I'm nothing. That's not correct. If I have nothing, I'm still a very high performant creature of God, but I have nothing. So don't get confused. We are someone, but we have nothing. And our problem is always having and not having. That's why we lose things, because we want to keep them. So our motivation is basic to be understood that we can never serve anyone else except God in the end, if we would know the right motivation. Then we must trust, because without trust, how much can we do? Every action that a human being does starts with trust. So when I drink this water, I must do a lot of decisions inside of me. I must know this water is a gain or a loss? A gain. Why is it a gain? Because I never checked it. I have to believe that those people who put this water in put healthy water in it. Yes? Can I prove it? No, I have to believe it. So I drink it. Because I know I must trust. Because you cannot control things out of yourself. Now, if I would know it's poison, I wouldn't drink. But I believe it's not poison. And even if it is, so it may be. But it's so important to understand that everything we do, we must do out of trust. There is no action that we do that is not out of trust. And what comes before trust? Evidently, our identity. We must know who we are, because that's the decisive element, as we have seen. And before we have the identity, of course, we have our needs. And we have learned last night in the law that there is only one source for all our spiritual needs, and that source is exclusive. Love, righteousness, truth, liberty, harmony, loyalty, security is found only in one fountain. There are not more fountains than one. And if we, that is our will, is made to want all those things, or do you don't want them? We all want them all the time, all our life. And so we have to go by trust to take it in order to give it. So in this things, you have the whole overview of the human heart and the human spirit and the body, how decisions are made. So there would be time, if we would have time, we would talk only about that, but this is the overview. So we found out that in human beings there is one problem that makes us to have stress, anxiety, and all the problems that we have, disease. What is that problem? What is the problem of the human spirit? And what is with the identity? You know the first case that is here, the lady who got her headaches. And I want to show you an example with my personal thing. I am a person that is fearful by nature, and I experience anxiety and also panic attacks. I know what it is to have that. And in 2015, there was an airplane crash in Europe. Germanwings, a suicidal pilot, that's the story, crashed the airplane. Now, since I have to fly quite often and have to use the airplane, and I like to fly, I must say I feel very good in the airplane, like at home. It's very nice. I always, when I sit there in the plane and I'm taking off, I say, Lord, what a good privilege you gave me to have this to fly all around. So it is end of November in 2015. I board the plane in Atlanta to fly back to Frankfurt. And while I go to my seat and sitting down, I had a good seat in front, did not like to sit in front, not in the back. And I had a good seat, I was happy for the seat. But while I was walking to my seat and was sitting down, I felt the anxiety. And in my body, things came up. And you know the feeling when you know it, when fear rises. And I said, this can't be. I feel always good in the plane. Why does this things come up? And I know, you see, some scientists say that there is no reason for anxiety. That's nonsense. There must be always a cause for the reaction in the body. There is a cause, and that cause is your mind, is your spirit. Subconsciously, you must think something that makes the body that hormonal change and brings that tension into it. And so I'm sitting there and things start to get worse. And I said, this is not possible. I cannot go by this. I have to see, why do I have this? So even though I didn't realize it at that moment, I said, I have to check, what did I think a few seconds before? Yeah, because the body in a panic attack reacts instantly. But in the disease, it reacts a day or two later when you have the result. So that's why in the fear it's nice, because you can just go very fast to see what did you think wrong. So I went back in my thoughts and said, what happened before? And so while I go back in my thoughts, I come to the entrance of the airplane, where when I entered the airplane, the pilot came out of the door. It's a tall guy, had no hair, and my first thought when I saw his face was, does he look suicidal? Now you laugh, but those thoughts are just, where do they come from? Where do they come from? That's my question. Do they have an origin, these thoughts? Yes. What is the origin of the thoughts? Pardon? Well, the news were, back then it was in April or when it happened, or May, I don't know. And I flew every weekend and I know how it goes, but I never had this thought before when I saw then a pilot to think, does he look suicidal? So where does the thought come from? So we have seen that we must have always free thoughts, loving thoughts. They change into not loving thoughts when we see an information outside and when we believe that information to be true. And so here it was the boyfriend that made her to not love him anymore because she found out he betrayed her. But in my case, it was the pilot. I see the pilot and I think he might be suicidal. Why do I have that kind of thought? Is that kind of thought that I think coming out of the truth or of an error? Where does it come from? And it took me as a prisoner. Where was my error? What did I want to control that was not under my control? You know that all problems of humanity come of its identity, but the first action of everyone is trust. So if my identity is correct, my trust is in whom? In God. If my identity is incorrect, my trust is in humans. So why did my spirit get anxious while I entered the plane and went through my seat? Why did he get anxious? In whom did he put his trust? In the pilot. Is your life ever dependent of a pilot? You're sitting in the plane. Is your life dependent on the pilot or not? I was so happy because I heard only no's. But now I heard only also yeses. So now I'm confused. I tell you another story. Is my life ever dependent on someone who picks me up from the airport? Because last year I was in Romania, and there was a young man who picked me up. I never knew him before, from the airport, and he had a good Volvo, and he drove through the city 200 kilometers an hour. I was put in my seat, so, shh. He just, wherever he could, he drove fast. Now, I never had such a driver who just wanted to fly more than to drive. But I must say to this man, because he had to drive me then for a few kilometers out of the city to the place where I had to have the meetings, and he didn't drive when he was even more free. He drove as fast as the car went. And there is no freeway. It's just a normal street. So you won't like it, necessarily. But I said, is my life in any danger? Any danger? No. Never is. This is the problem of our error. It is an error that we don't see as an error. We are convinced it's true. My panic, my fear came because I put my trust in the pilot. In the moment I saw my error, I switched. And how much panic did I have still? None. And I board any plane because I know if I die, who loses? Not me. I only gain. You like it? Isn't it fantastic? How much fear? How much anxiety? You sit like in the Father's house, I like the story where the disciples are scared because of the wind and the weather and the storm, and they fight against it. And what does Jesus do? He's sleeping in a deep sleep. And I said, this is my goal to be. When everything storms, I cannot sleep yet when the plane is going like this, but I'm getting awake. But I do not want to fear anything. Was Jesus' life ever dependent on any circumstance? I hope not. You know that. Our life are never dependent on the circumstances. They're only dependent on our trust in God. So, can we fly with any plane? Yes. If God puts us in that plane, no bother, no problem. So we just need to know that God has put us in the plane. That's more important. Yeah? So we have an error in us. And this error is not seen as an error. That's why we go into stress, anxiety, and depression and conflicts, because we are convinced we are right. Or did you ever fight because you were not right? Have you ever fight an argument because you were not right? No, everyone is right. And I'm always right. You too, probably. Yes, my wife is never right, but I am always right. So that's why I have to fight. I have to say something. So the error is there, and the error says, my spiritual needs are satisfied by what others are doing. Is that a truth or a lie? A lie. They must be alive to do it. Why people go to speak with their dead people? I have a gentleman, he said once, I will give a diamond with 4 carats for 1 minute to speak with my mom. I know that. That's reality. That's how humans are dependent on their love source. And that's why they search to talk to deaf people, because they think it's important that the people should be alive. What they go to the cemetery. That's why they speak to the dead. If they hear or not, they still do it. Because they think they must get something from them. There would never be a need to think about the death if you would not be dependent on them. Never would be a need. So, does anyone need to be alive for you to exist? No. There's one that he can never die, that's God. But if you think your life and your life purpose is ended when your child dies, or when your mother dies, or whoever dies, then you get a problem in your life because you're deceived by your error. Your life was never dependent on your partner. It was never dependent on your child. But every mother makes her life dependent on her child, unfortunately. That's the error. We must know that we are never dependent on the life of another one. I need to be loved, respected, honored, praised, etc. A lie or a truth? Oh, please, I don't hear the choir. I don't hear the excitement. It's a lie. It's such a freedom to know you never need anything from humans. Is it good to know? Imagine you never need anyone except to give. Isn't that nice? I said to my son when he wanted to date, I said, you have to give your girlfriend the videos, the presentations with me, to see if she's okay to love you for nothing. You like it? That's the test. If you don't love for nothing, you don't love. Because then you love only yourself. You use the other for your own need. You eat him up. Isn't that ugly? Would you see yourself in the mirror, how you eat the others? Yeah? That's how you call it, cannibalism? That's what we do on spiritual level. Because we think others owe us to love us. You never need to be loved, respected, honored, or praised. There's a good example who never needed it. Who was it? Jesus lived on earth, never wanted this except from his Father. He said to the Jewish leaders there, the Pharisees, says, you seek the honor of men. And you cannot seek the honor of men and the honor of God at the same time because they are opposites. Because the one you seek honor from is the one you are slave of. That's exactly what it is. I want to get honor, but from whom? From Heavenly Father. I want to hear his voice to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. But if people might get some mistakes in me, that's their issues, not mine. I do not want to search the honor of man. Do you think it's easy? I tell you, as a speaker, it's a terrible fight. You will always make yourself dependent on your public, and you become their slave without knowing it. And it's a fight to not become dependent on those who listen to you. Yeah? So we must train our consciousness to know we never need the honor of man. It's a hard one. The error says, others are not allowed to do me wrong. They are not allowed to lie, betray, beat, steal, and so on. Is that an error or not? How much are the others allowed to do? How much are others allowed to do to you? Everything. That's good. Everything. You like it? It's very nice. You don't need to stop anyone. If he hits your cheek, you say, oh, that's fine. You hit Christ's cheek, so please, this one as well. That's Christianity, isn't it? That's Christianity. And if someone steals your coat, you says, hey, take also my shirt, because they are both God's, so you have both. They fit together. And if someone forces you to go a mile, you go too, because you say, however I do it for God, never for you. That's why Paul could say to the slaves, you do and are good to the slave's master because you don't serve the slave master, you serve God. So you are nice to both of them, the good one and the evil one, because in your head, in your spirit, you are free. That's the power of the gospel. We will speak about that. So others are allowed to do me everything. You don't put borders to others. Whatever border you put to others, you put to yourself. I judge and condemn them when they are doing wrong. That's the truth, but it's an error that we do judge others. Yes? Every judgment of others is wrong. We must judge the acts of others. That's our ability. But it's never our duty to judge the motivation of others. We can never condemn anyone. Because the one might say something he believes is the truth, even though you say it's a lie. And then you say to him, you're a liar. Then you have done the same wrong thing like he did. Because you can never call anyone a liar. You can only say, I think that's a lie. Are you with me? So, I have to control time, circumstances, money, goods, and the life of those around me. As the error leads us to that point where we want to control that which is uncontrollable, because we think we are dependent. Is your life and security dependent on money or not? How do you know it if it's not? You only know it when it's not, when you don't have the money. And the Lord brought me through difficult situations during the last 14 years, which I am very happy for, because I would never have learned to be independent of money, to think independent of money. I do not want that any of my decisions are dependent on money or circumstances. I want my decisions to be independent of that. And the Lord brought me to many, many things where I had to take decisions without money. And when I had to buy the ticket, I had the money to buy it. But I took the decision to buy the ticket before I had the money. Because I thought, if that's God's will, He will provide. And so I learned that my security is never dependent on any material thing. It's just dependent on God, in whom I trust. If I trust, I have no problem. The more power I have over others, the better I think my needs are fulfilled. That's rulership. That's we all want. That state and church do with the people. We all want to control for the good, because we think then our needs are fulfilled. So where is the source of the error? The error source is the belief that I am someone who I am not. Because you can have only two identities. You're either a creature or a creator. There is nothing more. There's nothing in between. There is nothing, no stage in between. This is either creature or God or creator. And we are a creature. I hope you get that. So, let's look. The error in the heart subconscious looks like this. It's more a plastic thing. If I am God, I have expectations of others. I have expectations on me and on others and on God. I have claims, and I think the game is when others fulfill my needs, and I think the loss is when others are not fulfilling my needs or they are not present. That's why we miss people. Whoever you miss, you're dependent on. You like it? No. No, because we like to miss people. Because we must know we only can miss God, but God can we not miss. So then we are very happy. Because we have the people not for us, but for God's sake, we love them. Yeah? So you see, whenever you miss someone, you miss him because you need his love. If you miss him to help him, you don't miss him. You only miss him when it's a problem for you. So think about it. We can know the things. So when we get into loss, when our things are not satisfied, then we are anxious, we are stressful, we try to control things, and then our body gets sick. Let's look once again to the error. What's the means that God has to make us the error plain? The one mean that He has is His law. And you know the law, how it works. You must take from whom? From God, in order to give to all around you. But we have the error in us because we think we're God. We give in order to receive. That's the error. That's the breaking of the law, which in the end does not exist. You can never give what you not took. So, how can we know that we are wrong? When we have stress, we are in deception. When we have anxiety, we are in deception. When we have conflicts, we are in deception. When we have depression, we are in deception. When we have cancer, we are in deception. When all chronic diseases that we have come from this deception, all behavior that we have come from this deception, everything that in human problems arise has one single root. It's the self-deception of humans who think they can give something in order to receive. There is no other problem in humanity except this. And I saw this in humans. They either get sick physically or they get behaviorally sick. That is, they have no control. They are addicted to drugs, they are addicted to alcohol, they are addicted to sports, they are addicted to anything. You either have the behavior or the physical disease. It's always coming from the same root. So how many problems do humans have to be solved? I hope you get the point that I want to draw you from the wide angle into that one thing where you see we have one problem, and if we solve that one problem, we have solved every problem that we have in life. Because there is no second problem in humans except the one that he thinks he is someone that he is not, that leads him to trust to humans and himself, and that trust destroys everything. In a moment when we get into loss, when they don't do what we need. Now, last night I showed how the law works in our heart, and I go fast through it just as a repetition to see how beauty the law is. We know we must take first in order to give. That's the law of life. That's the power that goes into our body. We live in the law of death that says, I give to receive. This is the problem that we have. Love relationships we have in our consciousness, but in our heart we must have two reasons for a love relationship. There are no more, because we have no more actions. You either love to take or you either love to give. There is no other motivation than that. There was a young man, he was full of fears and anxieties, and he was depressed, and he told to me, I have a problem with people when I do a schedule. I make a date to meet them, and they don't show up. And when they don't show up, I get so angry, I must call them, but they don't go to the phone, and then I do not get any peace until I get them and rebuke them that they stole my time. So he came to me and I said to him, your problem is very simple. You know all problems are very simple? Yes or no? Everything burns down to simplicity. That's why you can solve how many problems? All of them. You just need to know where they are. So I said, why do you make the appointment? To take or to give? So he makes the appointment in order to take. So when the other doesn't come, then who has the loss? He has the loss. But he would make the appointment to give. Who would have the loss if the other one doesn't show up? The other one. So you would pity him and say, oh, poor guy didn't show up. No problem. Won't life be easy like that? That's the truth. You always, through selfish nature, All your appointments you do to take. We have one relationship just to give. Not even mothers love their children just for the purpose to give. They always give to receive. They are poor mothers, but I know. I love them. But they must understand every conflict with the child comes because they have an expectation from the child. And how long mothers have expectations from their children? Till they die, unfortunately. And I can tell you many stories of mothers. You know, my mother comes to me. Sometimes she comes every winter. She has 4 children, so she wanders, and now she wants to settle down in my house because she loves me and my wife. And so she comes, and since she came a few years, last year or 2 years ago, I don't know when, she came and said, she came on Thursday, and I said on Friday, Mama, I leave for the weekend. I come back on Monday night. And then I said, I will go on next Thursday, I leave for 10 days. So then she says, well, why did I come then? I said, Mom, why did you come? To take or to give? Why do they come? Everyone comes to take. Isn't that terrible? A mom should come and say, my son, you're here or not? That's fine. I'm praying with you in my mind. I'm always with you. I'm happy that you work. I'm happy that you're on the way. You serve the Lord. That's fine. Good on you. Doesn't matter. Don't think on me. But my mom complained later and said, I was expecting that you come every night to talk to me, to pray with me, and just to take care for her. Isn't that sweet? That's the dreams of a mom. From her 53-year-old son. So mothers are very special, are they? Yes, they're special. But they don't realize that they love in order to take. Because receiving whatever you want from someone is that you take from him. So every expectation that you have is taking. And if it's spiritual, then you can only take from God. So when it's physical, you can take from a human, but you always take from that human as coming from God. So who do you praise when your wife has done a good meal? God, because He gave her the ability to do it. No? And the woman is very happy when the man praises God for the woman He gave him. Huh? But do the man do that? Oh, the woman stayed there and said, how do you taste? No? They want to see for whom? For themselves. So there are only 2 ways, there are only 2 motivations that you can have. You either love a person to take or you love a person to give. And so there is one person that we need to trust in order to take, and that person is an exclusive person. That's why the taking is exclusive and the giving is inclusive. The tree never asks who eats his fruit. Yes? But the tree is dependent on sun and the earth. He is totally dependent. If he doesn't get from there what he needs to take, then he cannot do any fruit. But who eats his fruit? If it's a human, if it's an animal, if it's whatever it is, a bacteria, he does not care. The same thing is in the spiritual. God says you should love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your powers, and with all your strengths. Or, there are 4 or 5 things that Jesus enumerates there. That means, why do you love God? Why do you love Him? To take or to give? You see the confusion? Only take and giving, and so you are confused. Yeah? You see, I sometimes say to humans that say, I love my son like my life. I say, well, then your son is your God. You see, Jesus says very clear, You love with all your strength your God because you need Him, like you love food. Yes? Does God invite us to eat Him or not? Yes? And drink Him? That's love. Do you love your food you eat? Yes, you see, I love it. Delvin puts a good meal every day, and also Kim, where is she? And so I enjoy to eat. I'm really a person that enjoys to eat. And so I enjoy the food. Do I take anything from the food, or do I give the food anything? I only take from the food. And God is food. My son, when he got married, he asked me to have the sermon. And I always like to speak on marriages occasions. And so when he asked me, of course, about what did I speak at the sermon? I speak always about the law, the taking and the giving. So I asked him, son, why did you marry your bride? To take or to give? So what did he say? Now he said to take, because he was surprised at the question. But I took two things that I wanted to give them, because I couldn't do slides on a wedding, you must be more inventive. And I took a big ointment of oil, of eye salve, yes? I said, you have this 1 kilogram eye salve, and you use it every day to not get confused where you take and where you give. Your partner, your wife or your husband, is just for the purpose to give. But in a family, you get most confused, so you need eye salve every day to not get to eat from the right side. Yes, to not bite from the other one, but bite from, and I brought them also a big bread. I said, this is the love of God. So whenever you are hungry, you eat the bread, but don't eat your wife. Because she is not as tasty as God. Have you ever tasted another man? He doesn't taste good? Have you been disappointed? Yes or no? I hope you. Hopefully. If not, you will come to that point. Because we must know God is the bread. And everyone who eats from another place is wrong. That's why in the 10 Commandments, we have 8 commandments that prohibit to bite out of anyone else except of God. And so we have the first commandment that says, no other gods, no images, not to misuse the name of God. That is, from here, do not take, no bite at this place. And then we have the not kill, is you kill because you want to eat. You commit adultery because you want to eat your partner. You steal because you steal, yes, you want to take. You lie because you want to take. You covet your wife, the wife of your brother, whatever it is, because you want to take. So from here, do not take. Everyone who commits these actions that are enumerated in the law break the law in one point. They don't take from God. Because you can break the law only in one point, at where you trust. Where you trust, you take from. So there is one law, and that is the 4th commandment, in which it says, remember that you are a creature. You're not a God. That's the only law in the 10 commandments that gives us our identity, that brings us back to reality. And so if we would have understood the Sabbath like that, we would have been different Sabbath keepers. So we go to God to eat in order to give, because we have nothing to give before we take. And you always give what you take. And if you take from God, what do you give to the others? Anything wrong? Anything that is evil? No. That's peace. That's endurance. We will see at the end the love. So, honor thy father and thy mother is a giving command because it proves where you take from. If you cannot honor your father and your mother, you prove by that your mother and your father are still your sources, because they are your sources when you're as a kid, but they should become none of your sources when you are an adult going over 12, 15 years. You should not orient yourself after what mother and father says, but what God says to you. So honor thy father and thy mother is the hardest command. I saw all the diseases that I have in my class coming because you cannot respect your parents. If you ever say, my father hurt my mother, are you respecting or breaking the law? You break the law because you put yourself above them and judge them. But the truth is, did father ever hurt mother? No. Why do you say yes? Father can never hurt mother because mother does not belong to himself. Every time father hurts mother, who does he hurt? God. So we judge the wrong way. So there is the one law that Paul says is with a what? With a promise. What is behind the promise of honoring your parents? Health and long life. But since we all have expectations on our parents, do we? I hardly have a patient who comes to me and says, my parents did no mistakes. They are just fine parents. Everyone fights and thinks his parents did to him wrong. And whoever does that breaks the law. And it is visible in his body that they break the law. So honoring thy father and thy mother is the hardest thing to do, because it proves if you really live from God or you live from your parents. I had a lady that had many patients that she accompanied into their last few minutes in their life before they died. So she was an accompanying person who brought people, was with them when they died. And she said almost all of those who die say they go to their mother. You see the power of the mother? It's the umbilical cord is cut or still there? It's still there. And that is not honoring your mother and your father. And especially if your father has done to you wrong, can you ever honor him? If he might abused you sexually as a child, can you honor that father? Can you or can you not? Because if you cannot love him, you cannot honor him. But if you cannot honor him, then he did wrong unto you, and then you judge him. But you can honor him and love him if you know he did wrong to God's body and God's possession. So let's wrap it up and see together what's all about. Adam and Eve's purpose when they were created. Were they created with a purpose or no purpose? Purpose. Their purpose was that they should maintain the life on earth. They were the only link between God and the earth. You see, Adam was the only one who could take the love of God and bring it on this earth, so that through Adam, all the love of God was brought into. He should take it from God. All that, what God was his source, he took in order to give. The animal was taking from him, from the animal were taking the plants, and from the plants the earth, and in the end all would come out as a fruit that will go back through Adam to God. You see why I make God a circle? Because God says, I'm the beginning and the end, and every law is a circle. And where it starts, it also ends. That's why all things start in the heart, and they all end in the heart. All water comes from the sea, and all water goes back to the sea. And so God has in this universe circles and circles and circles. And so we have many circles in our body. The liver circle, all kinds of circles. You will see, if you once our mind is open, you will see that every law is a circle. Because God is so. And everyone is bound on him. And he bound our earth through Adam on himself. And Adam should take from him and take care for the whole earth. That was the responsibility of Adam. And as long as he took from God, he would have everlasting joy and fulfillment. Unfortunately, you know the story. He separated himself from God. He believed a lie, and now he took from mammon. Now he had pride and selfishness. He was giving to others. The animal changed. They became wild animals. The earth and all of us is here on earth is just the result of where Adam now takes. That is the result. The fruit is death. And it's a life in unrighteousness, in lie, in imprisonment, and you all know it. This is our life. Unfortunately, we live on earth. And now the question is, what took place? And you know, there are two things that took place when Adam put his trust in his wife or in the serpent's word. He knew before he's a creature of God. Then he changed and thought that he is God. He forgot that he's a creature. So the idea I am God overlapped the truth that is reality. And he lost the dominion of the earth, and Lucifer became the dominion of this earth. And do we see the result of it or not? I hope. You know, one patient came to me, she's an atheist. And she said, "You have a point," she said. "You have a point." I like that when people say at least a point, no? Said, "I don't find on earth love." I said, "You're right. But we need it. Why do we not find it? Because we're disconnected to the source of love." And unfortunately, the Christians, do they fail or not fail in this matter? Yes, because they don't know how to do it, unfortunately. So this earth lacks her basic need, which is love. And all who have open eyes say, that's the truth. There is no love on earth. Or, do you find it? There is none, because here is Lucifer. So now, there must be a solution. Can man ever access his heart again to change it? Let's ask those who are a little bit used in Christianity. When Adam took from the fruit and got the change that he's God, could he convert himself again? Could he ask forgiveness and say to God, "God, forgive me because I did this wrong"? Could he do that or could he not do that? I want to hear at least one no. Adam and Eve, after they have eaten from the fruit, were so blinded, they lost all capacity to see that something in them is wrong. They could never convert. They could never ask for forgiveness. It was an impossibility. You know when they asked for forgiveness? When God slew the lamb and made them clear that there must be done a change in their life that they, from their own effort, can never do again. They don't even see it. If Adam could apologize or could ask forgiveness, he would have never needed a savior. If you can ask forgiveness for what you do without a change in your heart, you don't need a savior. If you are free to choose the right and let the wrong on one side, you never need a savior. You only need a savior because you have no choice to do the right. You only can do the wrong. Because you're a captive. You're born in total darkness. And you have no place to get out of it. So God sends His Son. The first coming of Christ had one reason. It has to change in His own heart. He had to crucify the wrong idea and bring us back to know who we are. And we'll see how that works. In His second coming and His third coming, He has to deal with the results of it. Those humans who resist the truth and want to remain in their error, they are allowed to do that. And God will give them that what they have chosen, and He will then create a new heaven and a new earth. How was the battle in the heart of Christ? So Christ was born of how many persons? So 2 persons, yes? Every human being must have 2 persons where he comes from, yes? So we come all from two parents. How many natures do we have when we come from mother and father? We have only one nature, that is an evil nature that cannot do anything right out of itself. So Christ came from one human and from one divine. So he was having two natures. He had the nature from God, that was, he knew who he was, a creature, and he had the nature from Mary, where he knew he was God. And so in his heart, he trusted always his Father, because from inception he was bound to his Father like Adam. And so he battled in his heart. What? Where did he overcome? Outside or inside himself? Inside himself. Christ won the battle, not outside. He didn't never fight with any human being. He fighted only his own nature that he had to crucify on the cross finally. His battle was an inside battle, and he was healthy in his body because he never took from anyone else except from his Father. But he was from that inception. We don't have that. We are all incapable to trust God as long as our sinful nature exists. It must be killed day by day and put the trust in God. So God, or Christ, gives us his inheritance. And his inheritance, what he gives us, is that what is our whole solution. He inherits us through faith, a victory over the error. Jesus never believed a lie. That's why he was ever free. He was the only one that walked free on earth, never to deceive himself. He had never stress. He had never once headaches. Because you could make him angry? Could you? Could you stir him up? Never ever. So, how does that victory, how does that inheritance come to us? It is only one place where we can have the exchange of that inheritance, and that is the cross. You know, we speak about the symbol, yes? But we have to know it. So Jesus lived before the cross. How many sins did he do before the cross? None. He had a pure life, even though he had both natures. He had the good eye and the evil eye. But he conquered everything through the good eye. Because if you don't have the good eye, how much victory can you have? None. So what did he crucify on the cross? The evil eye, the sinful nature, the old man. It's so many symbols in the Bible that show that Christ eliminated the error from humanity so that he could then rise up as a second Adam. He went into heaven as a high priest, and he comes back as a king when he has solved the issue of the error. Now I am born with two parents, both have sinful nature, so how much good do I do until I get to the cross? How much good can I do? None. So the only thing is, on the cross happens an exchange that I came to understand very well at my practice with my patients. So I go, my whole past goes to Christ, and my whole life he takes over, and he gives me instead his life, which has the divine nature. That nature that he inherited from his Father, through which he covers all my past, because it is now not mine. Now let's look a little bit to this idea. If yesterday you killed a person, and today you come to the cross, who killed the person yesterday? Jesus. That was a fast answer, thank you. Because if you killed it, you must pay for it. But since I did many evil things before the 7th June 2003, I told you yesterday my story. On 7th June 2003, I had my cross experience. My again cross experience. I had it once when I was 16, but I lost it. And so I got my cross experience. And so at the cross experience, I came, and the beautiful thing was that in a second, he came into my life, and my whole past is gone. My wife sometimes remembers me of the old days, yes, or other people, and I say, you don't talk to me, because that's not my life anymore. You see, I can look back. I see the results of my bad education with the children. I see what I have done in my life. I see the results in front of my eyes, but I have no guilt thoughts, because I have not done those things anymore. They are over on Christ. He will deal with it. I am a free person. My past is gone. How much time does it need to solve your past? A second. A millisecond. A past needs never to be brought up again. You never need to deal with your past and try to come out with anything. You go to the cross and it's gone. You like it? It's fantastic. Because on the cross, you lose all the losses. Because you understand that your life is not your life. Everything that you have done wrong to others, now Christ did. He took it over. You're free. Everything that was done unto you until the cross was done unto Christ, because He took that life over. So if you were abused yesterday, physically or sexually, which is the same, who was abused yesterday? Jesus. So, do you have any problems with that abuse anymore? No. You see, I could speak about the power of the cross, because Paul says, I did not come to preach the gospel with fancy words, but in the cross there is power and wisdom, because it's about the mind issue. And we need power. When I took that decision to stay with my wife in my family, all my addictions were won away. By which power? I fighted 20 years to become free. I never succeeded. And here I am. I take a little decision in the most important situation in my life, because I thought a woman is my destiny. And it would have been, I would have died if I would think a woman must make me happy. And so God knew that that was my most vulnerable place in my life. And if that I could overcome, He could come into my life, and all my addictions were wept away without a battle, without a fight. It's now for 14 years. I never have even an inclination to be addicted to movies. And ask my wife, I couldn't fall asleep without the TV. And I was tired to death. I couldn't stop it. Once my wife, in her great love, cut the cord. I was very happy, was I? No. But that's the addiction. You cannot control yourself. You are just addicted. And imagine in the next moment, after that Saturday afternoon, Sabbath afternoon, when I got free, we went on Sunday night to sleep in a motel on the way with our children. And usually the first thing when I went into them, I turn on the TV. Nothing. Not even an inclination. That's the power of the cross. Can you describe it? Can you put anything on it? No. You can experience it, but you can never describe it. Because it's there. It's a power that gives you wisdom. So, the exchange on the cross is the most important thing. On the cross, you only see that you're a created being and you're not a God. That's why you need to die. A God doesn't need to die. Only a bad idea must die. So, but do you have a life after the cross? Are you now after the cross totally free from any problems? Do you love your wife just perfectly? Why not? Because that nature that we inherit from Christ grows, like Jesus says, like a sourdough. Yes? You put it, and overnight it becomes all. So Christ must take place in our life step by step until he becomes totally us. So, until then, I still have my sinful nature, which I have to go every day to the cross to crucify. You see, when I sin, I do not mourn my action, but I mourn the cause. But for the cause, I can nothing. That's why I go to crucify that what I was inherited from Adam in the end. So I crucify my trust in a human. I crucify that nature that I inherited so that the next time it will not fool me again that I should do the same work again. You see, there are people who try to overcome their anger, who try to overcome any habit or appetite. Have you ever fighted with appetite? That's the worst, you know? Or I don't ask men if they fight it with their sexuality. That's another thing. But this is appetite. It's both are there. Can we control it? You can never control it without the power of God. You must have a power to control it. And some people fight and say, I don't put anything here, I don't put the cigarettes here, I don't put, so that you don't see them. You know, all those fancy exercises. Will they work? No, because you have no power. That's salvation by what? You try hard to abstain yourself. You will never succeed. The only way to see is why is your appetite stronger than your reason? Why do you go by it without understanding it? So that's why every morning when I go to God, the first thing I analyze my last day. My life with God is a life of questioning, of asking Him question. Why did I look to my wife the way? Why did I talk like that? Where is the cause for it? Because I can say, God, help me to never do it again. Will it help? 20 years I have experience, it doesn't help. The only thing that helps is when you recognize that you put your trust in yourself and in humans, which is wrong. And when you then go and put your trust to God, which you only can when you go to the cross experience again, when you ask God to show you what's the problem. And I can tell you many stories. Maybe a very short story. My wife, she is not so sensitive to smell and to heat. I mean to cold like me. So when I like to smell good things, yes, and so she takes care for her mom in our house. And so I asked her whenever she goes into the room of her mom to close the door so that the smelling from the room when the mom sleeps in the night, and you know, when you have to care someone, it's not the best smell, and just so that it doesn't come out to us, that smell. And so I go in the morning in the wood because I pray outside, and I come back and here I am getting the smell, and I'm very sensitive. You know, some people don't even smell what I smell, yeah, but I smell it. And so I take and I close the door. I don't say anything, but I didn't close the door just without having any pressure in myself. And my wife knows me from a distance. She immediately senses my spirit. Is it? She just tells it later, then you go to God and you will convert you. Tomorrow you will apologize. And I say, no, this time I'm right. But I apologize very fast because I realize. And that was my first test that morning, and I didn't pass him quite good. So the next time we are sitting there to eat, and she leaves the door open. It's winter, and she goes to get something out from there. And while coming back, she leaves the door open. And I said, can you not close the door? Because me, poor guy, is freezing. And then she said something because she heard in my voice. Do you feel? How is the voice? Is it controlled by by heart or by reason? Your voice is ever controlled by your heart. You can never lie with your voice. Your voice ever tells the truth. And so she senses that. She is upset a little bit. I'm getting also upset. Now I say something, because she does it how often? And so I'm sad. I know I did it wrong. So I drive to my work and I say, Lord, where was the problem? Why did I get upset? Why can I not stay with the smell? Why can I not resist to that little bit of freezing? Because would it kill me? Of course not. What was my problem? I had expectations that my wife should think always on me to take care of my nose and my skin. And when I realized that, I said, Lord, have mercy. I trust a woman for my well-being. If you love, how much smell can you suffer? All smell, we will see that. How much cold can you suffer? I mean, as there is a limit, but then you can warm yourself up. You don't need to stay in that. So I have to go to God, but I do not convert, or I'm not sorry for the act, because the act reveals to me who I am, because I was before the act the same that after the act. The act is just helping me to see where my heart is bound to. That's why I don't have guilt, but I go to God as a sinner and say, Lord, I have this problem, and if you don't help me to see it, I will never see it. And then He reveals it to me, because He wants to reveal it to us, and then I get the choice to change. In the moment I get the choice and I say, Lord, I never want to expect from my wife to take care for my smell, for my nose, and for the heat. What will happen next time? Will it happen again? Yes, it will happen, but you are free. You think, oh, she does not need to take care for me. She's allowed to do what she wants. So that's how we have to go to the cross every day, to learn in whom we trust. That battle of trust is not a battle of works, but that battle you can never win without Christ. Works you can reform. Yes, you can put things and reform your actions, but your heart you can never change. And if the heart is not changed, it does not matter what you do in the end. So I have to go every day and ask forgiveness and grow until one day you see the red lines are at the end of this here. And so when the red lines are at the end, divine nature has overcome sinful nature. And so I wait till my King comes to make me a new creature. So that's the cross. Now, I want to share a few words about forgiveness, because I know forgiveness is a big issue, but I would need an hour at least to explain forgiveness, but very simple. The usual understanding of forgiveness is, I am God, you did me wrong, I forgive you. That's the usual understanding of forgiveness. And people are called to forgive this way because they say that you might be free, just forgive. Is that selfishness? Yes, of course. If you don't forgive because you love the person, there is no avail of forgiveness. It's only as we forgive, not that we forgive. And this is our forgiveness. That's why when you forgive as a God, you still remain a victim of the situation. And I've seen people that have gone to many forgiveness seminars and they never solve the issue, their depression state. Depression is very often because we cannot overcome anything. Forgiveness is some great issue in depression. So what is the right way to forgive? The real understanding of forgiveness is, I'm a creature of God. You did something wrong. To whom did you do wrong? to God because I am His creature, and so you did wrong to God while doing wrong on me. I will ask God to have mercy with you and forgive you as He had with me. That's forgiveness. You do it for the other one, not for you. And I go a step further. God forgives us while He takes all our sin and put them on Christ and tells us, you did no damage against me anymore. On the cross, God says to me, you are my son. There is no record with you that you did any evil unto me. Isn't that forgiveness? Yes. And He says, how much do I owe God anymore on the cross? Do I owe Him something? No, righteousness is fulfilled. So now am I, as a creature of God, how shall I forgive? And I want to give you an example of a lady that I have somewhere in this world where I travel, who was abused from her father, who is a pastor, who abused her from the age of 8 to 17. And she now is in her 60s. And she has how many diseases? Many diseases. And she never solved her problem. Until about 6-7 years ago, she went into a Christian counseling institution, and there she got worse. Because she was told to separate from their parents, to not have any contact anymore with them, because they don't do her good. You know, psychology has only a solution: separation. There's no solution. Because then you run away. Can you ever run away from your heart? That's not smart. Because the problem is not your father, the problem is just your heart. Now she's a very difficult case because she listens to my seminar and says, I know you are right, but I cannot do it. If she ever goes to her father and says to him, Father, she must say, you did me no damage anymore because you damaged the property of God. And I have pity with you, but I don't have pity anymore with me. When she goes to her father and says, you, Father, owe me no debt anymore. Tell me how much years, how much lives the father would need to live to make good what he did wrong. How many lives? Could he ever pay the debt? No. If anyone sinned against you, you have no means to pay the debt, and you remain the slave of your error. I had a conflict with my mom. Unfortunately, I never thought I would ever argue with my mom, but it happened. And God just revealed to me how my umbilical cord is still bound to her. Because I want something from her. You never have an argument if you don't want something. And so my mother got not happy with me, and I apologized, I wept, I prayed with her, because it happens in a second, and then you say sorry. And so and there are about 10 days are gone, and I come home from my traveling, and I said, Mom, you still look not happy. You're still sad. Are you still thinking on? And my mom suffers from depression and anxiety, and she says, yes. I said, Mom, why? I apologized. I confessed it immediately that I did wrong. Why are you holding it on to it? Because you know, I said to Mom, I only sinned against God, not against you. In that moment, my mom said, no, you also sinned against me. I said, let's say that is the truth. Mom, do you have any means to make that what I did wrong, to correct it? Can you give righteousness a means to do it right? Has she something? Has she anything to fulfill righteousness? No. So she remains in an unrighteous, unsatisfied state because she thinks I did wrong to her. And I said, look to David. David killed a man, and he didn't say, I I sinned against the man. He said, only against you did I sin. That's why when I said to my Mom, I confessed my sin to you because I sinned in front of you, but I sinned against God. And I know why. And I solved the problem with God. But obviously, if you believe that I did it against you, you will stay in a bad shape. And it made click with my mom. And I'm so glad that it clicked with her and she understood that I did not do her wrong. You see, when this lady goes to her father and says, Father, you did not do anything wrong to me, but you did it to God because I am God's property. Will she do this out of human power or out of divine power? There is no human power that can ever do that. And conversion and the cross is no human power. If you can do only that, what a human can do, there's no power, no grace needed. We must do things in our lives that are higher than every human power. And that is to say people that they didn't hurt you ever, because you understand you're not God. You are just a creature who cannot be hurt. There was one man who lived on earth who never needed to forgive. You know the man? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ knew you never needed to forgive him because no one could do him anything wrong. He knew that everything that was done unto him was done unto whom? His Father. He says, he who receives me receives my Father. He who rejects me rejects my Father. He who gives a hit to Jesus, who does he beat? The Father. He never took anything personally. He knew, I am a creature of God. All that is done unto me is done unto my Father. So when he was crucified, abused sexually, he was naked on the cross. When anything could see his shame, what did he say? Poor me or poor you? He said, Father, they don't know what they do. They do you harm. Look what they do to you, because I'm yours. And he had pity for himself. Never had Jesus pity for himself. All his pity was just for those people that did him harm. How much pity do we have to the sinner? We pity the victim, do we? We pity the victim, but we never pity the sinner. Because we condemn the sinner. But that's wrong. Do you understand? It's wrong. So, I come to the definition of love, and I finish because that's the theme for tonight. So, the definition of love, I came to understand love from what makes us sick and not. And as you know me now, I only go to the root. I don't like branches. I don't like to see the leaves. I need to know the root. What is the root of love? What is that principle out of which everything that is love comes out? So always going to find the root. And I found the root in love. Love is an infinite thing, and it has two basic things as much as I know it until now. It might be more, but this two, if we exercise this two with our spirit, we will have no fear, no anxiety, no depression, no diseases that come from our mind. And we will be people who are nice people. So let's see. The first thing in love is maximum interest for the other person. Do you think love has maximum interest for the other person? Yes. Now human love has also interest, but not for the other person, but in the other person. Because it sees in the other person food. So mothers have interest in their children, but if they don't do it right, they will rule, dominate, and forcing the good on them. Have you ever tried to force good on others? It's a very simple thing. Most simple thing to do. In our selfish nature, we impose the good and force the good on others, which is devilish. Because God gives on the other side 100% liberty for the other person, 100% respect for the other person, There is in God's love, no force for the good. How much can humans give liberty? They can give liberty when they are not dependent on someone, when they become indifferent. And I say you, if you're indifferent to a situation, it won't make you sick. But can you be indifferent to the father that abused you? Can you or can you not? You can never. To the child that died, you can never. To the woman that betrayed you, you can never be indifferent to these things. And you are there in prison because you cannot give them liberty to do it. Would you have let Adam to eat the fruit? Would you have let him? Of course not. Mothers would have said, boom, once over the hand, push it away. Don't you know what you do? There is no such thing in God. God knows no compelling force. There is no force for the good. You know that disease, all those 90% of our diseases that come from our mind are only an incapacity to give liberty to evil. You see, love can give liberty to evil to exist. Selfishness cannot let evil to exist. It must extirpate it with force. Are you with me? Love can endure a lie. Selfishness can never endure a lie. Love can endure everything. Selfish cannot do it. Why is only God this source of love? Why can only God be this? I have my atheist friends, my atheist patients, and I prove to them that this kind of love only God can be. Why is only God this kind of love? Have you had an argument? Can you prove that God only can do this love? And why is God the only one that can do this? There is a difference between dependency and liberty. What's the difference? What's the connection between dependency and liberty? You can only give liberty to whom you are not dependent of. That's the connection. That's why God, who is the only one that is independent, He can give to you how much liberty? Because does He depend on you or does He not depend on you? Some people think God needs our love. I heard that story. He created us so that He has someone who loves Him back. Poor God, I say. That's none possible. God is always independent. That's why He is love. He can let you die for eternity because He loves you. Can you let your children die for eternity because you love them? Yes or no? No, because our love will not let the children die for eternity. But that's why parents are very sick, because they want to control their children for eternity. You must allow any human being his right to die eternally. Then you love him. If not, you don't love him. Amen? Are you with me? That's our problem. I wanted all my 6 children to be saved. And one day in 2007, I went to God and said, Lord, because I then started to see that when I do an appointment with God, it happens. I said, God, I want to do an appointment with you. When this things here on earth is over and we are going to be there, I want to have an audience scheduled with you alone. You know, we can go to God, the Father, as you know. And I said, I want to come with my wife and all 6 children. So please schedule the appointment. Because I said, when He schedules the appointment, then it's for sure we will be there. And I wanted to secure the salvation of my children. Did I? It was smart from me. Then I think, well, I'm learning. And so when I said that prayer to God, because I speak to Him very openly and said, Lord, you have to. And then the thought came to me that said, are you also coming alone? I said, huh? And then I realized something. Why did I want to do the schedule? Because I love my children or I want to force them into heaven? because I wanted to force them into heaven. And so I said to God, thank you for the answer. Make the schedule, I come alone. But if I can go alone, I will never go alone. Because if I'm independent of my wife and my children, that's most probable that I will get them with me. But as long as I'm dependent on them, I will get none of them with me, because I'm lost as well. That's why, let us be clear, love respects everything another does. That's not something that we can do. I tell you, liberty is the incapacity to liberty is the devil's root, and we all have it in us. Every anger that you express on others is because you don't give liberty to the evil. Every disease comes from this that we have, because we want to impose on others the good. So God is the only one that can produce this love. So how do I have to have my relationships with my spouse, my father, and all these others? I have to give them love. Where do I take that love? If I am dependent on God, how much liberty will I give to my wife? Do you think it's easy? I tell you, love is the only sign that you're bound to God. And love will be proven not in interest for others, but in giving liberty to the evildoers. So I have a goal in my life. I want that one day I should love with this love. And so I have a goal that I want to be the most loving person that God has on earth. Is that a good goal? That there should be no other loving person than me, that God says, He takes his angels and says, look down there. Here it is. Do you see him? That's him. He's the most loving person. Everything that happens to him, he just takes and gives liberty. And so you know why I do these seminars? I don't want to be alone. The most loving person on earth. I think that must be our goal, should it? There should be a competition for love, should it? There should be no one that loves more than me. You know, there were the 12 disciples, and the one said, I will build the most loving one. And did he succeed? John, yes. John succeeded. He was the most loving disciples that Jesus had. But he was like me before. He was angry, but he had something, and I want to have this love in my life. I want to be always giving joy to people who are not good to me. I want to be peaceful to people that are not good to me. I want to be long-suffering and patient to people that are not good to me. I want to be gentle and friendly to people that are not good to me. I want to be faithful for those who are not good to me. I want to be meek. I want to have purity and self-control. And I want to have full knowledge. He who has this love has full knowledge of himself. And this love makes him to be full capacity to do everything. And so I want to read that nice chapter and encourage you. 1 Corinthians, you know where it is? 13. You see, that's a chapter that we have not understood, because it is that chapter that is the only sign that you're bound to God or not. And since it reads so nice, instead of love, I put my name in, because it has to be one day my card, not written on paper, but written on my heart. Let's look like it sounds. Horst suffers long and is kind to the good or to the evil. only to the evil, because to the good you don't need any effort to be kind and long-suffering. Horst is envious not. Horst doesn't want itself. Horst is not puffed up. Is that easy? Horst does not behave itself unseemingly. Horst seeketh not his own. No actions he seeketh his own. Wouldn't that be nice? Horst is not easily provoked. Horst thinketh no evil. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Horst never faileth. You like it? Put your name into it. One young man once heard the message and said, I go home, I put this on my wall, and I write everywhere where is love, I write Horst. I said, you're mistaken, young man. You should write your name there. He brought me on a good point. Yes, he brought me on a good point, because he made clear to me that must be our identity card. It is still in printing, but I know if anyone ever will look to me, my exams will not be exams of know the Bible where it's written. It will not be knowledge. It will be the possibility of love. And there is this one sign of every Christian. You see, I don't matter what you believe, in which church you go. What will prove that you are with God is the ability to give 100% liberty to the evil one. When you can do that, you must be connected to God. You must be connected to the cross. You must be together with Christ. And if not, you must still go to the cross and learn it. So how many of you would like to become the most loving person on earth that God has? So that He has to search for you and say, this is it. This is the man or this is the woman. Anyone here? Anyone who searches love will become a different person.